Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Aran from Aran Academic Planning. This is another installment of a virtual information session series in which I'm joined by mission representatives from schools all across the United States, Canada, and Europe. These schools represent a wide variety of institutions for you and your family to consider as you go through the college search process, whether liberal arts colleges, public research institutions, women's colleges, originally affiliated schools, and everything in between. And today I'm joined by one of those women's colleges and Adriana Fernandez. So, Adriana, take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana. I use they, she, her, AF pronouns. I'm an assistant director of admission at Wellesley College, and I'll tell you a little bit about what makes Wellesley Wellesley. Before we get started, I always like to give us a sense of where we're located, so I'll take a moment to read our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Wellesley is built on ancestral and traditional people belonging to the Massachusetts, Wampanoag, and Nipmuc nations, and we also recognize that the many indigenous people living here today have rich ancestral histories in Wellesley and its surrounding communities. Today, the descendants of the Massachusetts, Wampanoag, and Nipmuc nations and other indigenous people remind us that they're still here, where they maintain a vital and visible presence. We honor and respect the enduring relationship between these people in this land. And this land acknowledgement was developed through the important work of our Wellesley Native American and Indigenous Student Association. Awesome. So a little bit about Wellesley. Wellesley is a women's college and a liberal arts college. So those are two key features for you to know when you're looking at Wellesley. Being a women's college, we were founded in the late 1800s during a time where it wasn't socially acceptable for women to go to college. So while our student body looks a little bit different now than it did back in the 1800s to include a more gender diverse student body, including non-binary and trans students, everything that we do here at Wellesley is built with the belief that the biggest agent of social change is an empowered and educated woman, and we strive to create an environment that is not only comfortable to all of our students that find ourselves on our campus, but also an environment where students have the liberty to explore anything and everything that we have to offer. A little bit about who makes up our student body. We have about 2,300 students. We're a solely undergraduate school, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, why that's one of our biggest assets. We have over 55%, more than 55% of our students identify as a student of color, 14% are international students, 21% are the first in the family to go to college. And I give you a little piece of what our community is made up of, because part of this diversity piece is what's really important in building those connections with peers, faculty, students for that might have different backgrounds than you, and appreciating all those different walks of life and really engaging in this diverse community. So while we might be small, we are considered to be one of the most diverse in the nation. We are about 12 miles outside of Boston, so we're located in the beautiful town of Wellesley, Massachusetts. And being 12 miles out of Boston is a really big asset because while we have our own beautiful campus, there's 500 acres, there's a lake, there's different walking paths. We also have really easy access into Boston through our shuttle system. The shuttle's free on weekdays and about $3 round trip on weekends. So it's nice to have the best of both worlds of being able to have a residential experience with our own campus while at the same time having access into Boston, whether you want to go to a Red Sox game, go to a concert, or just explore the many museums and historical sites that we have in our city. And then another piece that I do want to highlight with your experience here at Wellesley, and we'll touch a little bit more on this later, but is the 7-to-1 faculty ratio. And 100% of our courses are taught by faculty. So you're not being taught by TAs or PhD students, which allows you an even more intimate experience with your professors. I almost joke that it would be awkward if your professor or your peers didn't know your name the whole semester because the class sizes are that small. The majority of our class sizes are no bigger than 25 to 30 students, and we don't have auditorium style classes. What you'll find is that a lot of our classrooms are discussion based, so it's more the professor probing your thinking rather than just talking at you. And what we find is that when students really know those that they're learning from, and also those that they're learning with, they have more courage to ask those questions and be more bold in the classroom. So, like I mentioned previously, we are a women's college, and one of the things that we're most proud of is that students who attend women's colleges are more likely to major in STEM fields and serve in leadership roles on campus. We do have over 56 different majors, anything from computer science, anthropology, economics, anything in the STEM, humanities, language, and more. All of our students actually come in as undecided to give you the ability to explore anything and everything that we have to offer. And again, building that space where students can feel empowered and emboldened to take that risk and taking that subject that you've never had the chance to take before, or taking on that leadership, is something that's really important to us, especially being a women's college. The other piece that I want to highlight is that graduate of women's colleges are more likely to earn graduate degrees and hold leadership positions within professional organizations. And again, a lot of that stems from the experience that you have here on our campus. The other thing I want to highlight as well is that we are considered to be one of the most powerful women's network in the world, and our students are going on to do things like going into the finance field, they're going on to do PhDs, they're going into government, and so much more. And a lot of this stems from having the ability to explore who they want to be right from the very first day that they get to Wellesley. And then the other thing that I want to highlight, touched a little bit briefly, but coming in as undecided, you have the ability to take anything and everything that Wellesley has to offer. As a liberal arts college, you actually have to take what we call a set of distribution requirements. So this can include 2 years of a language, a media class, a multicultural class, quantitative skills, even something like an experiential learning, internship, research, study abroad, even a PE course, believe it or not. If you're a little bit nervous about that, you can take a dance class or a yoga class. But the purpose of these distribution requirements is to not only expose you to different subjects that maybe you've never had the chance to take, but to also give you a well-rounded education. One of the things that we're constantly hearing from career education is that employers are specifically looking at liberal arts graduates because you're coming out with this wide range set of skills that can be applied to any jobs, especially in a day and age where jobs are changing so quickly. You want to make sure that the college education and the skills that you're gaining will be able to carry you for the rest of your life and your career. The other piece too is that our faculty are instrumental in helping our students build not only themselves as students but also build themselves as leaders. I always like to give the example that I recently had a freshman year student who went to office hours. So these are hours that all of our faculty are required to have to whether you have a question about the class or you might be struggling with. And through that conversation with that professor, they both come to find out that they're Buddhist. And the professor was like, "Hey, I'm actually planning on going to these reflection hours at the chapel after we wrap up. Do you want to join me?" And now it's something that she and the professor do weekly, and it doesn't have anything to do with academics, and it really goes to show the extra step that our faculty are going to helping you not only feel supported as a student but also helping you feel supported as a person. And the other thing I want to highlight about our faculty as well is that over 30% identify as a person of color, and more than 60% are women, both of which are a rarity in higher education. But the biggest piece is that all of our faculty and staff that are on our campus believe in that mission of empowering our students and guiding them towards all the possibilities that Wellesley has to offer. A couple of different pieces that I want to highlight when it comes to experiential learning. The first one is research. Like I mentioned just now, you really build a close relationship with our faculty members. And one of the pieces that really allows for you to grow as a leader is being led to these opportunities, such as research. You can start doing research as early as your freshman year through our first year student research apprenticeship program. This is an 8-week shadowing program where you can shadow a professor in their lab. If you're interested in pre-med, we have our sophomore early research program. This is specifically for underrepresented low-income students, where you can have an early introduction into the medical field through having different faculty mentors. You can also go into Boston and start shadowing doctors. Wellesley also educates the highest women who go on to receive PhDs in the STEM field among our liberal arts peers. And again, being a solely undergraduate institution, all the opportunities that we have on our campus are there for our students. You're not competing with PhD students or grad students for these opportunities. In fact, one of the things that I'm constantly hearing from our students is that they're doing research a lot earlier than some of their friends at other peer institutions, because while we might be a solely undergraduate school, that direct access to our faculty and also being around Boston, one of the biggest cities in the United States, really allows for our students to have direct access to these opportunities. The other piece that I want to highlight as well is that we have research opportunities not just in STEM but across all different disciplines. An example of this is one of our recent graduate students. Her name is Shreya. She was a Southeast Asia Studies and psychology double major, and she was actually able to do faculty supported research for both of these majors. For her Southeast Asia Studies, she did a research project on the connection of Wellesley and India. She actually won an award for that, which is pretty cool. And then for her psychology research, she was interested in the mental health of college students. So she actually did a research on swings, like those that you rode when you were a little kid. So if you ever visit our campus and see swings from some of the trees, you can thank Shreya for that. The other piece I want to highlight as well is that we have 2 research conferences a year where students can present their research. If you've done research or if you're starting to explore what kind of opportunities there are, you can come and support your peers and start getting ideas for what you can do. Study abroad is one of the other questions that I get the most. We have over 180 different pre-approved programs, so pretty much pick a place and we can help you get there. You can actually go abroad up to 3 times if you wanted to, and study abroad is so popular that over 50% of Wellesley students overall study abroad, with second semester junior year being one of the most popular times to go abroad. And the best part is that your financial aid will travel with you. And then in terms of plans for the future and internships, our career education office is a really great resource since your very first day at Wellesley. Since your very first day, you actually receive what we call an advisor for career exploration, also known as an ACE advisor. This person is there as you're starting to ask the questions of, what do I want to major in? And then eventually, I know what I want to major in. What can I do with this major? What kind of jobs there are out there? How should I be preparing? Career education also has a seminar for our first year students. Typically the last week of winter break, you can come back to campus early and start meeting with your advisors, start getting a sense for what kind of opportunities our career ed office has, as well as how can you squeeze out everything that Wellesley has to offer to succeed. When it comes to internships, 93% of our students participate in at least one internship before they graduate, and a big source of these internships are actually our alums. We actually have an internship program called the SHIPS program. So this is short for the Short Internship Program. Typically, your summer of your rising sophomore year, you can participate in a 1-month virtual paid internship that is actually provided by an alum. This program actually came through through COVID, during a time where there weren't a lot of internships available. So career education said, hey, alum community, do you have any opportunities through your different businesses and organizations? And they came out with so many different opportunities that now it's a permanent staple in our career education office as well. The other piece I want to highlight that we have in our career education office is our different field advisors. So again, once you determine what you want to major in, you can get a sense for what kind of jobs are available through these different field advisors. They can give you advice on what kind of trends they're seeing in those fields, and also expand your mind about what kind of jobs you can do with your different majors. The cool thing about being a liberal arts college is that you can mix and match your different majors. So a lot of times, our students will do different majors in different disciplines, which I think at the end of the day creates for really cool opportunities after you graduate. One example about that I always like to give is my colleague Nia. She's a 2019 alum. She was a geoscience and a philosophy double major. Sounds like a bit of a random pairing, but if you ask Nia, she'll tell you that both of those are very theoretical. But with that, she actually went on to she was going to do her PhD in geology. She did that for about 2 years, quickly decided that that's not what she wanted to do, but she found that she really loved working with students and now works in higher ed. And I give that example just to show that how versatile the liberal arts education is. And 97% of our students are employed in graduate school or engaged in fellowship or service work within 6 months of graduation, which really goes to show the preparedness of the liberal arts education. And then when it comes to financial aid, I do want to mention a few things. Let me just double check. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, actually, with regards to our Wellesley students, like I mentioned previously, we are a pretty diverse community, but we have over 180 different clubs on campus. That's one of my favorite statistics that we have because it really goes to show the range of interest that we have on our campus. Whether you want to do Club Rocks, which is studying rocks, or you want to be a part of Pre-Law Society, Shakespeare Society, ever wanted to play the bells on a tower, you can do that at Wellesley. We also have a lot of other clubs that are connected with some of the local universities, like our Brandeis Wellesley Orchestra. We also have a couple of our religious groups that are affiliated with some of the local universities as well. So you really get to engage with that interconnected network. And then we also have different affinity spaces on campus, like Harambe House for students of African descent, Acorns House for students of Latinx, Asian, or Native American descent, and we also offer our LGBTQ house on the fourth floor of the penthouse. And these different spaces not only help celebrate the diversity on campus, but they also put on different events for the whole community to participate in. And the other piece I want to highlight as well is that we do guarantee housing all 4 years, and we have over 16 different residence halls on campus. Awesome. So now shifting gears to the admission portion, if you decide that you want to add Wellesley to your list of colleges to apply to, there's a couple important things to know. When it comes to deadlines, we have a couple different paths. We have 2 rounds of early decision and 1 round of regular decision. For early decision, we have early decision 1 with a deadline of November 1st, and usually a decision by mid-December. And then for early decision 2, the deadline is January 5th with a decision by early February. We recommend early decision to anyone that knows that Wellesley is their #1 school. As you may or may not know, early decision is a binding contract, so if you're admitted to Wellesley via early decision, you are committing to going to Wellesley. However, if you really like Wellesley, but you also really like a lot of other schools and you want to be able to compare schools a little bit more, regular decision is also a great option. The deadline for that is January 8th with a decision by mid-March. And then the other piece that I want you to know as well is that we take the Common App, Coalition, and QuestBridge application. We're also free to apply, and we are test optional for the upcoming year. About 57% of our past enrolled class chose to submit a test score. And then when it comes to reviewing our applicants, we are looking at you in a holistic review. So while your grades are important, your grades aren't the only piece that we're looking at. One of the things that I tell students when they're looking at if Wellesley is a good fit is to consider that being a liberal arts college is unique, but being a women's college is even more unique. So we're looking for students that are self-selecting to be in an environment where they're going to feel challenged, whether it's through engaging in diversity, taking advantage of the opportunities that we have, taking those classes that maybe they've never had the chance to take. Intellectual curiosity is something that we look for, and we do see that in a variety of different ways, whether it be through the classes that you're taking or the different activities that you're choosing to be involved in. I do want to say that with academics, we're looking at you in the context of your school. We're not comparing you to another school in your state or another school in your county. We're just looking at you and what your school has to offer. We do typically like to see increased rigor through all 4 years, and although while not required, we do strongly recommend a minimum of pre-calculus. If you're able to take a calculus or statistics course, that's even better. We're also looking at your quantitative and qualitative skills. Through the personal essay, we want to learn about you. We're not looking that you're trying to write something that we want to hear, but we're looking that you share something about yourself that maybe isn't reflected in another piece of your application. And the other piece that I want to highlight as well is that We do have a supplemental essay. The supplemental essay is about 200 to 300 words, and the prompt of it is how do you engage with those around you that might have diverse perspectives or diverse experiences than you? What have you learned, and how will you engage to your future community? I do strongly recommend to students that not only do they think about these different experiences and what they want to bring to a community, but also if there's different pieces about Wellesley that pique your interest, mention that in the essay. The more specific you are, the better it will be. Awesome. And then I've mentioned some of these things already, but this is all on our website if you're looking for the deadlines as well. And then when it comes to financial aid, we are extremely privileged to be able to give out over $82 million in financial aid every year. We are need blind for domestic students and need aware for international students. However, we meet 100% of calculated need for all admitted students. Our average financial aid package actually just recently went up. It's about $70,000, and if you're as of this upcoming year, if your family makes less than $150,000, as we calculate it, and a contribution of less than $28,000, we are actually tuition free and we don't add loans to your package. However, if you do happen to have a loan on your package, we do cap it at $15,000 over the course of 4 years. And a helpful tool to give you a sense of what your cost to come to Wellesley would be is called the My Intuition Calculator. This is on our website. It was actually developed by an economics professor at Wellesley and recently got sold to a college board, which is pretty cool. But I recommend all of our prospective students checking that out to get a sense of what Wellesley might actually cost for your family in your different situations. Awesome. But if you have any questions and want to get in touch with us, we will have our admission email later.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adriana. Couple quick questions. So I had someone from Bryn Mawr on a week or so ago, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked her as a women's college. Very similar in terms of kind of your location, 10 or so miles outside the city as opposed to Barnard, which is smack dab in New York, or the other Seven Sisters, which are a bit more removed. We'll just kind of use that kind of terminology. And my question was, as a women's college, you're not just getting students that are coming to you from women's high schools, whether it's like religiously based schools or independent schools, or even some public schools have single gender schools. So I was wondering for those co-ed students from the high school side that come to a school like a Wellesley, what is the adjustment process like, if anything? Because I know it's always a sh culture shock going to college from high school for the large part. But I was thinking just for this case, what is it like from, I guess, what you can kind of tell us anecdotally from those students who are coming from the co-ed, independent, or public schools to a specific gender school like Wellesley?
Yeah, so although I myself am not an alum of a women's college, a lot of my colleagues are. And actually,
Hmm.
one of my roommates is a Wellesley alum. And one of the things that I'm constantly hearing from either alums or friends that are women's college alums is that while you think it's going to be radically different, and it is, by and large, a lot of things are the same. You're going to
Hmm.
build lifelong friendships that will transcend even after you graduate college. You will have access to a lot of opportunities, but I think one of the biggest pieces with being a women's college is that our students feel empowered to access these opportunities a lot earlier. One of
Hmm.
my favorite statistics, I recently met with our head of our economics department. We usually graduate about 90 to 100 economics majors every year. It's one of our more popular majors.
Hmm.
Only about 20 out of those 90 indicate interest in economics in their application, which
Yeah.
means that over two thirds of over two-thirds of those students declare an economics major at some point during their 4 years at Wellesley, maybe never having had the chance to take economics. Especially being
Hmm.
a primarily male-dominated field, the fact that our
Yeah.
students feel empowered to take opportunities and really dive into those, whether it's internship or research, pretty early on is a really big testament to the fact that they feel comfortable on our campus and that they feel supported. So I would say
Hmm.
that we definitely like women's colleges create leaders because students feel comfortable. But I think the other piece too that's nice is that sometimes students have different misconceptions about what a women's college can be. One, that we are a nunnery. We're not a nunnery. You can have guests on our campus. Also, through our cross registration program with MIT, Babson, Brandeis, and Olin, students can
That
also
was my
come.
next question is because you're you're lucky and be in a place where you can throw a rock and hit five different like
Mhm.
world-renowned institutions, right? I was wondering what specific kind of programs you have in place with those schools within the Metro Boston area.
Yeah, so the cross registration is one of them. So you can take up to one class a semester starting second semester freshman year at MIT, Brandeis, Babson, and Olin School of Business. Those
Mhm.
last two are within the same town as Wellesley, which is really neat. So you can take up to one class, and then students from these schools can also come and take classes at Wellesley. At the end of the day, you're getting a Wellesley degree, but it's really cool to be able to not only expand the different academic offerings, but to also be able to again, if you want to get an experience of what it's like being in a 200-person style auditorium, which is what one of my colleagues did at MIT, you can also do that. But the other one that I want to highlight is that our Europe program, so this is our undergraduate research opportunity through MIT. So students can participate in research at MIT, whether it's through this program, or I've also heard of students that through the cross registration program, they were really interested in the professor research. They sent them an email and kind of informally joined their research project, not necessarily through an opportunity that we have available.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is related to more of the admissions process, specifically financial aid. So
Mhm.
you explained what early decision is, right? It's the binding option. And when I talk to families about that, undoubtedly the first question comes up with is related to financial aid, right? You mentioned my intuition. I'm sure y'all have net price calculator pages for Wellesley. Are there any other tools that those students and families can use specifically for early decision, whether it's like an early estimate, because with the binding kind of where it cuts both ways is they it might have a higher chance of acceptance, but you're not going to be able to see how much it costs, like down to the penny, as opposed to a regular situation where you would get the financial aid and admission letter without having to commit immediately. So do we have anything in store like that, or is it just the net price calculator in my intuition?
Yeah, so we do have the My Intuition, which will give you a range,
Mhm.
and we do strongly recommend students making an appointment with our student financial aid services. On our website, we have you're able to see the breakdown, and all of them you should be able to create a meeting with them. We recommend this to students whether you're doing early decision or not,
Mhm.
and they should be able to help you even before you apply. Even if you look at the results of My Intuition calculator and you're like, something doesn't look right, our student financial aid services team is really great at working individually with students and looking at their different situations and making sure that they're making the most financially informed decision, especially if you're doing something like early decision.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So I think that's a good place for us to stop. So on behalf of Adriana and myself, thank you for joining us.